Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight we welcome writer, director Jeremy Lanni and co stars Peter Jason and Stuart Pankin from the movie Deep in the Forest, which is now available on video on demand and digital. So go out and get it streaming at your favorite streaming retailer of choice. Guys, thank you so much for being here. How you all doing tonight?
I got some back problems and stomach issues, but I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
You stole Peter's line.
I played a doctor.
Did you do that?
I played a doctor on TV once. I can fix
Oh,
it.
shucks. Can you say shucks on Dead Talk?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. That's a great thing about the internet. The FCC doesn't really care.
Wow.
So let's talk about the movie. The movie, again, is called Deep in the Forest. To give our audience just a slight synopsis of what this movie's about, if you were to tell this to somebody 20 years ago, you'd probably be laughed at in the face. But it's America breaking out into a second civil war, which unfortunately, if you tell it to somebody in today's world, it is not that far-fetched, which makes the movie that much more scarier. So Jeremy, I want to go ahead and start with you. Okay, you wrote this, you directed it. Like we said, it revolves around America breaking out into a second civil war. There's a group of people that are put together in a cabin deep in the forest. What immediately stands out about this group is the diversity within the group, which is very well done considering how the stories about America being divided and factions starting to fight over each other. So the diversity that you included with the cast and characters, how essential was that to your story?
Well, I was part of quite a few Democratic clubs, and it's a pretty accurate sort of representation of the folks at those clubs, in terms of age, in terms of ethnicity. And the diversity also is not simply, sort of age, ethnicity, gender. I made sure I brought all sorts of folks in terms of their personalities together, because that's how you generate conflict.
Yeah.
So these are people, they're all Democrats, but there are a lot of different kinds of Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
And I really wanted to just look at the different kinds. What's the difference between, say, a leftist, a liberal, and a progressive, and a moderate? Those are all very different kinds of Democrats. So it's diverse in that way, as well as, ethnically, genderly, in terms of age.
Absolutely. Now, Peter, you are the leader of this Democratic group. You play a character named Mark Goodman. Now, when you are going into character and you have to understand the character of Mark Goodman, so in your mind, Peter, walk us through what elevated Mark to be the leader of this Democratic group. What kind of backstory did you give your character?
Well, I was president of my college and junior college, Orange Coast College in Orange County. And the president of the college, Basil H. Peterson, pulled me into his office the very first day I'd been elected. And he said, "This is going to be the loneliest job of your life." He said, "All of a sudden, you're not going to have any friends because you're going to represent everybody." So it made for some strange feelings. I have my own personal opinions about whatever the issue is, but I am not allowed to force my opinions on anybody. I'm allowed to only hear everybody's opinion and kind of come to a group conscience, if you will, of what that opinion should be. So it was kind of a judge-like and a little bit like a grandfather of all these different flavors that were happening in front of me, and so you're always in a kind of a quandary.
Yeah.
I can't really flex my muscles, but I can certainly direct people in a way. And I think the movie starts off, I hope I don't give away too much of it, but I think it starts off and I do take it upon myself to kind of force myself upon them. But I won't tell you any more about that.
We're going to get more into the leadership stuff as we go along because you bring up some very interesting points. Now, Stuart, you play Max Steiner, a professor of European history. Your character carries around in your pocket the United States Constitution, which you tell us is from your dad when he immigrated to this country and he was becoming a citizen and he had to learn about the Constitution. Max develops a very close relationship with Amy, the daughter of the Washingtons. It's a great relationship that develops between Max and Amy as you sort of explain to her what democracy is and how important it is, especially to immigrants coming to this country, as opposed to us that were born here and sort of kind of take it for granted that it's like that all over the world. So when it came to Max, being the son of an immigrant, uh, how important was it for you to get the character right and to instill the values that feels to have it come across to the audience?
Well, it was ultimately important. I mean, that's who the guy is, and especially when the crisis starts to happen in the country, to rely on the sentiments and the precepts of the Constitution was tremendously important to the character. I mean, that's what Jeremy wrote. I mean, I know that my in-laws and my own family, they were all immigrants, and my father-in-law especially, a tremendous patriot. He was first generation, but he was a tremendous patriot, and he carried that pride, in the face of a lot of people who were, not necessarily supporting America, throughout his life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always, and my father's father, came from Russia, and America was terrific to them. I mean, it's I still think it's a terrific country. It's got a lot of problems, but a lot of people are trying to fix them. But if you look at the Constitution and you look at the people who are in the country and in that room, in Jeremy's room, it's important to Max to make sure that those precepts, those freedoms, are understood and spread, and the little girl is a perfect conduit from the old to the young to get that information out there and to keep it living. So yeah, I mean that was the primary importance of the character, the Constitution.
I really related to Max's character because I'm the only one in my family born in the United States. My parents immigrated here from Greece. My brother was born in Greece. He's my older brother. I was the first one in my family to be born in the United States. And I remember as a young kid when my parents were studying to become naturalized citizens. And you got to study and because you are tested. So that really resonated with me with Max's character. And
Great.
I thought it was really spot on. Now, Jeremy, you sent me, you passed on a very interesting message to what sort of inspired you as you were writing this film, and that is Walter Hill. Walter Hill, for those people that don't know, is a very famous producer, director, writer. He's done movies like all the Alien movies, The Warriors, which is a favorite of mine. And Walter's concept is about putting people in a dangerous situation, removing the leader, and seeing the power struggle that ensues. So Jeremy, tell us how much of an influence did Walter's work play in Deep in the Forest for you?
Well, in terms of writing the story, a huge influence. I'm not sure where Walter Hill got the idea originally. I know it's in an old Boris Karloff movie called The Lost Patrol, and it's about the French Foreign Legion. And I saw that template there. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the first places that Walter saw that template.
Yeah.
But the template is basically you take a bunch of disparate people who are from different socioeconomic backgrounds, people from different education levels, from different ethnicities, and with different points of view, and you force them together, and then you put them in danger. And yes, you're right. You remove the leader, and then what happens is their struggle to survive is also a power struggle.
Yeah.
So that's what makes the struggle to survive interesting. Everybody wants to survive. Everybody usually has the best, in mind for the group, but they're at odds. and that adds all sorts of internal tension and dynamics. Now, those dramatic, the dramatic tension that you generate in that way, that translates into audience engagement. That's what makes the audience care, is putting, differing points of view and banging them up against each other. That's really how it works. Now, so just a quick example would be, you had mentioned Alien, right? Obviously, there's the Dallas character.
Yes.
That's played by Tom Skerritt.
Yeah.
They remove him, very famously in a duct, right? He gets eaten by the alien. Or he doesn't get eaten, he gets cocooned by the alien. Now it's a power struggle. Now we have to figure out who's going to take over. Ultimately, Ripley rises to the top. But, and then in Aliens, they use the same kind of thing where the guy in charge gets a concussion.
Yeah.
And so he's incapacitated, same sort of dynamic. Then in something like Southern Comfort.
That's Michael Biehn in Aliens. It was Michael.
In Aliens, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is it Michael Biehn or is it the guy? No. He remains, he's removed as well.
Yeah.
But there's the guy who gets the
concussion.
That's
right, yeah. I don't know the actor's name, but you're right. It wasn't Michael Biehn.
But he's the guy who isn't really, he gets the job because of his background, not because of his qualifications.
Exactly.
Right. And there's a similar situation in Southern Comfort, where they're in the swamp. And it's, help me, Peter, Keith Carradine and Powers Booth. And there's an incompetent commander there. Yeah. And he's removed. And again, it's a power struggle. And the Warriors. And what is the name of the guy who, is it Cletus?
Cleon.
Cleon. So Cleon is removed. Mm-hmm. And then, there's the one character, I want to be war chief. And then it becomes with Swan and a battle.
That's James Remar.
Yes.
Ajax,
right.
Yeah.
So it's Ajax and Swan immediately in the graveyard. Yeah. Start going at each other. So these are examples of that template that is very useful when you have an ensemble piece. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say, Peter, you had a chance to work with Walter. Is that accurate?
I've done 14 movies with Walter, yeah.
So how do you think Jeremy, as he was influenced to write Deep in the Forest with sort of Walter in mind, how do you think it came across for you, having worked with Walter in the past?
Yeah, they're different directors, of course. Walter is, they have one thing in common. They create a family. Both of them create a family. And they're both in charge of their ship. And very seldom do you get that opportunity to work with somebody who's in charge of their ship. In the old days, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's, Union, Gulf, and Western, or somebody else runs the ship. And they're all, and it's not as much fun. When you have one captain, then you know who to go to with your problem. And it makes it easier on everybody. And the family isn't confused. Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, Jeremy and Walter are the same. In other aspects, Jeremy is a little shorter than Walter.
I think I'm shorter than most people, Peter, so that's not saying very much.
I love working with Walter. We've made many movies together. It's the first time I realized when you explained what a Walter Hill film is, and
he does it very subtly, and you don't really. I mean, it's like
can't be in all movies because I first met him in The Driver, and I don't know, is somebody removed? Is the leader removed in The Driver? I'm not sure. The next one was 48 Hours. Is there somebody removed from power in 48 Hours?
Not in 48 Hours, no.
In Johnny Handsome, in Red Heat, in The Long Riders,
no,
maybe. Maybe the group breaks apart when they split, when Jimmy Keach and Stacy go their way, and Dave and Keith and Bobby Carradine go their way, and the Coen go. But Bruce, most of the movies I've done with Walter don't fall under that category. So that was a little confusing for me. I see it in The Warriors. I see it in The Swamp, in Southern Comfort. I don't know, Geronimo, did that happen in Geronimo?
I don't think so, no.
He has such a wide variety of films that I think it's hard to pigeonhole him like that, just like it's hard to pigeonhole Jeremy the same
exactly.
way. you see a group of his. I've done quite a few of Jeremy's things too, and he's different in everything. I'm different in everything that he gives me to play, from a dying cancer patient to Orson Welles. I played a lot of different characters for Jeremy.
Absolutely.
So hard to say that that's the way that director does something.
Exactly. And we're not trying to pigeonhole Walter to doing it only one way, but it's amazing on how Jeremy found certain movies, and the viewer engagement aspect that you mentioned, Jeremy, is fascinating because as a writer and a director of films, ultimately that's what you want. You want your viewers to be engaged in the content. When the script was done and you got to the set and you were ready to start filming, did you have any nerves on the execution of what you wrote and how to get it right?
Well, we had done some rehearsals. We had a table read, and the principals, the Nancy Wilson character, that's Ursula Brooks, and Derwin Jordan, who played Ethan Washington. So they had read together with me. So they had done some rehearsing, and then they rehearsed a little bit with Makara Gamble, who played Amy, the daughter. So they became a family unit. And yeah, I had done some directing. I wish we had more time and more money. If we had those, I mean, I'm a huge, you were talking about influences. It's not just Walter Hill. I mean, I'm a cinephile. And if I had to say, the folks who've really influenced me as well would be somebody like, Sidney Lumet said. Sidney Lumet would rehearse the entire movie for 3 weeks like it were a play. I mean, that's expensive.
Yeah.
Now, expensive, yes and no, right? Because you're saving money in the number of takes and the back end and the quality. But you do have to spend 3 weeks in rehearsal, That's a dream of mine. Wow.
Yeah.
If I could ever afford that, that would be heaven.
Yeah, and it's like that's unheard of in today's world of trying to do it that way. Stuart, the film starts with a television interview. A professor is being interviewed and is really laughing at the notion that America's democracy can fall into a dictatorship. It's not going to happen. This is not. It's not possible in any way, shape, or form. And then it does happen. What do you think is the impact and how it relates to us in the real world? Do you think we take our democracy for granted as Americans?
Why don't you ask me puffball questions like you asked Jeremy? How do I know? Well, first of all, Larry Cedar, terrific actor, is the newscaster. What was the question? Does democracy? What is it?
He goes on. The movie starts off with him on the television, dispelling any notion that America's democracy is in danger of falling into a dictatorship, and all that. And it was very important for Jeremy to put that in the beginning of the film for us to see. I mean, it's because it sort of mirrors what I can compare it to is Americans taking for granted democracy, of it ever being taken away from us.
No, my personal opinion, no, I don't think it can happen. I mean, there's too many checks and balances.
Yeah.
You're going to get groups, springing up. You're going to get the June 6th peoples, and you're going to get maybe, types of groups that are the fictitious people in Jeremy's movie. But no, do people take democracy for granted? Yeah, some of them. But there's, like I said before, enough people, addressing the wrongs and the ills of that. Look, we got 350 million people in this country. People always point to Norway and Sweden. There's 6 people in Norway. There's 12 people in Sweden. They talk about, and the ethnicities and the religion are the same. You're talking about America, maybe 320 million people. With with a palette of religions and ethnicities and colors and creeds. It's astounding that it's gone this well for so long.
Yeah.
I personally don't believe that democracy is going to be, turned into a dictatorship because of a few people. There's enough people, decent, good people, that know look, there's no absolute truth, absolute, good and bad. I mean, people who went into the towers in 9/11, they thought that was good. We thought it was bad, but there's enough good people to and checks and balances to keep the constitutional freedoms and that we enjoy and that America has enjoyed for a long time intact. And like I said, there's a lot of problems with the country, but there's a lot of people trying to work on it. Exactly. And, as long as you get those groups of people trying to work on diversity, religion, and equality, and gay rights, and all that stuff, Black Lives Matter, as long as you have those people, those core people, working hard. And as we all know, if you read the paper, it's not in the background anymore. It's not under the fold. It's not on page 7. It's right out there. Gay rights, Black Lives Matter. And as long as you got those people and you can keep the press free, I think Jeremy mentioned that in the movie, as long as you keep the press free and active, whether people take it for granted or not, it's not going to go away. Okay. It's my personal opinion. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's fair enough. Now, Jeremy, I want people, you could have gone 2 ways in making this film. I mean, you could have shown the fighting and so on that was happening in the street, but the path that you choose is much better. You show what happens to a small group of people who are trying to survive the war, okay? The way they were brought to the cabin was done under secrecy. They don't know where they are. This is a psychological drama / thriller on what happens to people when their government falls apart around them. What do you want people to walk away after watching this film? What is the main theme that you want them to walk away with?
Well, I certainly didn't want to do propaganda. As an individual, as a personal citizen, I am a Democrat. But what I wanted to create was art. And when you do art, your first loyalty is to dramatic tension. And so I don't have any particular message. I was creating a tragedy. I have, for Nancy, the main character, I mean, she basically does everything that I would do and gets screwed for it. That's tragedy. That's right. I mean, she's a fundamentally good person who, literally, she does everything that I would do. And what I do is create a story that, the fates conspire to put her in a situation where she sacrifices herself and her, psyche and her, I guess, morality in a sense for the group. Because, if she didn't behave the way she did, the group wouldn't survive, but she sacrifices herself to do so. And it's kind of like a tragedy. So that's not a political message. That's a character message. Yes. That's, so that's my first loyalty. I always give the devil his due. I always give my characters. Now here, there are no devils. There are no antagonists. There are just different people who see things differently. But I have written plenty of villains. And when I write villains, I give them everything I've got. I try to get into the head of the villain, and basically, because villains don't think they're villains. So for me, my point is simply that, I wasn't looking to do agitprop or whatever. This is not something, and it's interesting because some of the, the reviews are very, complicated and mixed, which is great. What do we think at the end of the movie? Do we think that family is going to stay together? I don't know. I present the possibility. I want people to walk away thinking about that stuff. I don't present easy answers. I create complicated situations, and I wanted to confront people with tragedy, classical tragedy. The idea that somebody, like Oedipus or something, where it's not Oedipus's fault. He was born to who he was born to.
Exactly.
And it's confronting the idea that sometimes the fates just have it in for you.
Absolutely.
And so I that was kind of the model. It wasn't saying I'm a Democrat with a Democratic message or anything. They happen to all be Democrats because I know Democrats, and it's more interesting for a character piece to have those people. So it isn't, devolving into some political screed of some sort. That's not what the movie's about.
No,
it's about people.
It's about people and what happens to them, like I said, when stuff falls apart. Peter, Jeremy brought up an interesting point about how bad people don't think they're villains. What I find funny, and I'm asking you this question, both you or Stuart can answer this question as veteran actors. I love how actors who play villains always have a justification on their villainous character. It's not really that bad. As an actor, I don't think I've ever seen you play a bad guy role. Have you ever played a bad guy role, Peter?
Oh, yes.
Plenty.
Let me ask you this: do you enjoy playing the bad guy over the good guy?
Absolutely. They're the most fun. But I
Peter,
mean,
talk about the
say, have I ever
bartender.
played a bad guy role? The answer is no. All my guys are good guys, but even my bad guys are good guys.
Exactly. I love that. I love that how actors can take like they can play the most heinous villainous
I mean, Anthony
character.
Hopkins is a perfect example. Here's a guy who eats people. Yeah, we're laughing at him, having an old friend for lunch, and we're laughing at him. We're enjoying it, but bad guys are the most fun.
Uh,
They're just the most fun, especially with a smile. If you like your
exactly.
character, it doesn't matter what the audience is going to think of you. If you like your character, he's a good guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jeremy, back to you.
But before I get off, I'd like to say I want to hear Jeremy say uh, what's his name, Oedipus. I want to do that plural again. How
I'm
was
sorry,
that?
what about Oedipus?
Yeah, what was the plural?
He's
I'm sorry, what
asking.
was the question?
What was the plural of Oedipus?
He
Oh,
wants you to
Oedipi?
say.
I don't know.
I thought you were saying Oedipus.
More than one
Oedipuses.
Oedipus is
Oedipuses.
Oedipi?
I
You
got a
know?
file last week.
But the one thing you might want to talk about, Peter, is the bartender. That's not a nice guy.
I thought he was a great guy. Some guy
Here we go.
coming into my bar and he's trying to take over the bar, and I try to kick him out, but we were nose to nose. Nobody won that.
Do you know that reference,
He won the
John?
fight.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
I
Good.
know
He got
exactly
what
what
he
he's
wanted, but
talking
I was trying to
about.
protect my place.
Now, Jeremy, you mentioned Nancy, who is the lead
I'm only
character.
getting what he wants.
Nancy is the lead character. Let's talk about her husband. Let's talk about the marriage
Hmm.
between Nancy and Ethan. It's a marriage that is strained. We know about them individually, and these are two people that are completely different. There's bitterness between them, there's resentment on the part of Nancy. So when it came to time to write Ethan, what did you use as motivation to develop Ethan's character?
Well, I was thinking, and again, it's not as strained. I mean, he's a civil rights attorney, and
Mm-hmm.
she is now a soccer mom who used to be a serious activist, out in the streets activist. And so, just over the course of the marriage, there's a little bit of tension, but really it comes out under pressure. It wouldn't have come out otherwise.
Yeah.
They would have just carried on with, a good relationship, not the greatest relationship ever, but a decent relationship. There is a lot of common ground. I didn't have a lot of time to set up their relationship, so I probably put a little more focus on the tension in the beginning so that when it comes out later, it'll make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what I used for Ethan is I was looking for somebody who does the right thing to a fault. Now, that's the important part about that phrase is to a fault.
Yeah.
He will do the right thing if it means everybody dies
Yeah.
because he's incapable of doing the wrong thing. That's a nice character to put against Nancy, who does the right thing up to the point where people start to die or her child is threatened. And there's also the maternal thing going on there. Ursula playing Nancy, and I worked a lot on the maternal.
We have to say Ursula did a fantastic job as Nancy.
Oh, yeah.
She was
Oh, yeah.
brilliant.
And both of them are parents in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So that made it a little bit easier. And, the Ethan character believes he's doing the best. But in fact, if they had listened to him from the beginning, they would have been discovered.
Yes.
If they had let Mills, I mean, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but if they had let the one character go, Mills, his character's name is, basically that would have been it. So if they had listened to Ethan, ironically, he's the saint. He's right. He's the person who listens to everybody's point of view. He evaluates. He's a good judge of character, that kind of thing. If everybody did what he was suggesting, they'd all be dead.
While Nancy is the type of leader, and what makes her a leader is that she will do whatever it takes to keep the group safe. And
including sacrificing herself.
Exactly.
Yes.
Stuart, let's go back to Max's character. Max, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but he makes a decision towards the end of the film You can call it a very selfless decision to what he thought to help the group out.
Well, don't tell me what it is because I haven't seen the end.
When you were putting yourself in Max's shoes, did you have a hard time coming to terms why this man is making this choice? Or did you find it very easy to understand?
No, I felt it easy. I mean, there's lots of things that is going on with Max physically and emotionally that I really don't want to say anything because, you just ruin the thing. I mean, and the whole camel dance number would have, it would spoil it. But no, it wasn't hard. I mean, the character was plotted to the point where it was almost inevitable. I mean, you talk about Derwin or what's his name? What's his character's name? Ethan's character. Max made a judgment based on the growing relationship he's had with those people in the room, and he realized that and the affection he had toward Eva's character, Abby. Is that her name, Abby?
Abby DeVere is the character.
Abby DeVere, the closeness. But it came to the point where there was nothing else he could do. There was nothing else that he could do to help or to see. It's hard to say things.
I know it's hard walking around the spoiler.
But it was basically, to answer your question in a very strange, long way. It was inevitable. It was something that he felt that he had to do. He did, and I think as the lights were dimming, he felt happy about it. I mean, he just felt happy about it, and it's like Jeremy said. It's better to you do the right thing, and you feel good about it. And I think Max ultimately, if you ask him about it,
he threw himself on the sword.
Yeah. Well, now you ruined it,
it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
Oh, it's a metaphor. Oh,
Now, Peter, Mark goes on a supply run. You guys are running low on supplies, and you need stuff. Max needs medicine. Max has a medical condition. You need food. You need supplies. Mark does not leave Nancy in charge. Nancy is chosen as the leader by a group vote from the people that are left behind. Putting yourself in your character's shoes, do you think Mark would approve of Nancy being the leader of that group?
No.
Why? Is she too?
She's too demonstrative. She's too excitable. She's too. She has a short fuse. It's too emotional. I would put Max in charge.
Oh, in a minute.
What's the cook's name? I forget her name.
Wendy Worthington played her.
Sandy. Sandy Boyd. Sandy.
Yeah. Sandy. See, Sandy is level-headed. She's she's elderly. She's got some years on everybody and some knowledge on everybody. And I would put the combo of Stuart and Sandy in charge of the group, because my character kind of likes them more than anybody, really, and trusts them more than anybody. And if I want to protect the people,
your character has great taste.
It's called acting.
Oh, acting.
But that's it's an imperfect world. That's what I would be. That's what I have done. I didn't get that opportunity, but I'm not going to tell you why. When the helicopters come in and take me away, and Dumbo is there. Don't forget Dumbo.
Now, Jeremy, was that done on purpose, Jeremy? When Mark goes on the supply run, he doesn't leave someone in charge. He sort of says. He doesn't say anything as in regards to who's in charge. He doesn't see them in...
I believe I said goodbye.
He said goodbye, but he didn't really see the group as being in danger. He thought they were safe. They're too nestled away in the woods for anybody to find them. That's not ultimate.
Wendy Worthington plays Sandy Boyd, and she is left in charge. She's given the gun.
Yes.
Yeah, but my point there was that is not because she's the right person necessarily to be in charge. It's because that's the democratic process. Because they've taken over these rules from the Democratic Club. It's Robert's Rules of Order.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I wanted to ask myself is, okay, Robert's Rules of Order are very useful in a meeting, right? How useful are these in
a life or death
combat?
Situation?
So that was kind of, she is, definitely, it's almost like having a vice president who you might not want to actually be president, but you need a vice president. That was kind of where I was going with that. And what winds up happening is the natural leaders and the natural conflicts start rising. And she herself knows that she's not necessarily perhaps the best leader as things get worse and worse and worse. So she doesn't fight for leadership when she gets a vote of no confidence.
That's true.
She's okay with that. But again, my point was that, these nice rules that work in one context may not work in another context.
Absolutely.
It's like in Lord of the Flies when they've got the conch,
Yeah.
and they give the little fat kid, and he goes, I have the conch. Shut up.
It's true that the conch in itself does not authority make.
No, it does not. It does not. And you mentioned the tragedy earlier. We're not going to give anything away, but when everything sort of wraps up, a split decision is made that ultimately affects Nancy's life for the rest of her life. Is that the moral dilemma that you wanted to put her character in? The tragedy that it was ultimately leading up to?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I wanted her to do, like I said, everything that I would do every step of the way. Keep putting her in double binds, impossible situations where there is no good answer. Okay, there are just two bad answers.
Actions have consequences.
Yes.
Yeah. No, definitely. And so I wanted to keep giving her the lesser of two evils, until you get to the point where the entire story and the fates have conspired that she does, again, the only thing she can possibly do to save everybody and is destroyed for it.
Exactly.
And that's kind of my definition of classical tragedy.
It is. It's. I would say the ending of this film is more tragic than your typical Greek tragedy that you would read. So, we can't talk anymore because we're going to be giving too much away about it. But please, guys, go out and watch this movie. It's called Deep in the Forest. It stars Stuart Pankin, Peter Jason. It's written and directed by Jeremy Lanni. It's available on your favorite digital streaming platform of choice. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. I just want you to know, don't expect to watch this film and see a America Civil War action movie. This is not it. This is about the psychological drama that unfolds when a war breaks out around a group of people who are just trying to survive and ride out the war, and the circumstances that they are put through and the challenges they have to face. You guys did an excellent job with your characters. Jeremy, you did a fantastic job writing the story.
And if you like nudity and violence, you will love Deep in the Forest.
John Carpenter will love this movie, and if you like They Live, you're going to love this movie, and he's going to love the fact that you're wearing his shirt.
That's right, Christine. That's right, John Carpenter, They Live, The Thing. Thank you guys so much. As I mentioned, now you guys, almost everybody out there has seen They Live. Now, everybody recognizes Peter as being from They Live. You know, Peter, when I say I'm having Peter Jason, I'm like, he's from They Live. You know what's the one scene from They Live that I described from you? And they're like, oh, that's who he is. You know what the one scene is? You're the guy that gives them the contact lenses when they arrive at the meeting.
Not contact lenses, they're glasses. They're actually glasses.
So once you tell them that, they're like, I know exactly who it is. So anyway, it's been an honor talking to all three of you guys. Thank you so much. Check out the movie Deep in the Forest. I want to thank Jeremy Lanni, Peter Jason, Stuart Pankin for being our guests. Until next time, stay safe, guys, and stay walking. Good night.
Give our love to the president.
That's
Thank you.
good night, everybody.
Good night.